Life is full of paradoxes, and our spiritual journey is no different. There's actually a whole chapter in the big Unity Metaphysics book about divine paradoxes, but this one is not on there. Much of our practice, much of what we talk about in our spiritual journey is about being present, right? Be Here Now, the book that launched a million hippies, has been in continuous print since 1971. I saw a thing that said it had printed over 2 million copies, but that statistic was 10 years old. So I'm going to guess it's more now. Meditation, forgiveness, contemplation, all of these things. It's about shedding, time, healing, and being in the now. But the other side of the paradox is the long view. We use our imagination and our wisdom to see what we can do and what we are called to. Even the nudge to engage in spiritual practice is sparked by a vision of a better future and a better now, and possibly by the pain of the past. So while being present is important and an important part of our process, I think often as the case with the paradoxes, that the middle way is the wisest, or even more when we think about polarities, that we move back and forth. We are the present. We use the past and the future to inform us. We are in the present. The old adage is that the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The next best time is now. And whether we're planting actual trees and plants or figurative seeds of a better world, learning from the past is very important for the future. I had someone say to me recently, "Why do I care what happened beyond yesterday?" And I have seen this, I've seen this taken to unhealthy extremes many times. I've seen people, we call it spiritual bypassing. I've seen people decide, oh, well, I'm spiritual now, so all the things that I've done in the past don't matter because I'm spiritual now. That would be living in the now in an unhealthy way, because it doesn't mean that poof, all the harm that you've caused in the past went away, or poof, all the underlying motivations or hurts that might be causing you to, or being impetus for unhealthy behavior, or just poof. It doesn't just poof because we decide we're spiritual and we're living in the now. It's as ridiculous as if I just put landscape over fabric over the large holes that my dogs left in the yard and assumed that no one would fall in because you can't see them now. They're gone. Let me tell you, my ankles can tell a different story than that. Even when you can see them, they're still there. No, we can't just, so we see the vision. So instead, we may be in the present realizing, this is not how we want to live. And we use that as a motivator to make different choices by acknowledging, healing, making amends, so that we've truly changed. We actually have to go fill in the holes before we can say it's smooth sailing. So we're in the present, we notice things we need to do that come up, and we do something about it. So being willing to look at our past with curiosity, with an eye for learning and self-compassion, always with self-compassion, because we just have to know that our past selves did the best we could with the information we had. And so we know better, we do better. We can learn a lot. And those things help us avoid those things in the future. Now, taking the long view in the other direction into the future, it makes me think of Moses. It makes me think of many people whose shoulders we stand on, who didn't see the finish line. But Moses, he didn't see the promised land in the story. No one who left Egypt did. Now, we can take that several ways. We can interpret that to see is that the you that leaves the way things were and journeys to a new place will be changed and made anew. You become new. The short version makes me think of when Bill and I drove here with our U-Haul from Kansas City to Alaska. Well, it was only 9 days. Thank goodness it wasn't 40 years. But it felt like a whole new experience, so much so that a few months later, when I'm doing our taxes, I completely forgot about 2 side gigs that we had done. One he had done, one I had done. Completely forgot about them because it just seemed like a completely different time. Something so far away. So that year I learned how to amend my taxes. But another interpretation we could think of as Moses is that the things that really matter, the big things, take multiple lifetimes to achieve. So instead of worrying about making something fit in our lifetime or fit to our timeline, like this is the time it should happen in, maybe it's wiser to see it like the Olympics torch relay. Every time they have the Olympics, they bring the torch across the world and each person carries it for their part. And they celebrate the time that they get to carry it. Instead of saying, well, I didn't make it to the finish line, they just celebrate their part of the journey. Now, that is not saying that we should be patient with a slow timeline for injustice and harm. We certainly should not. But when we're talking about our life journey or the enlightenment of the masses, I think we should come back to doing our part, that the best we can. I think that it's helpful to hold a vision of a desired future, even if it seems really far out, like the enlightenment of the masses. I mean, I would love for that to happen tomorrow. Anybody else think that would be great? Yeah, that'd be super awesome, right? Yeah, enlightenment of the masses. That would, I know some capitalists who wouldn't agree with me, but I think it'd be pretty great. A world that works for all. That'd be cool. I could get down with that. So this is our promised land. And when some future generation arrives, it will probably look different than expected. We know the path meanders. But we also get to be brave enough to say that I have faith that this desire of mine and so many others' hearts is worth the effort of generations. It's worth my effort. I've had this upstairs on my mantle and I brought it down. I've been meaning to. These were my grandfather's binoculars. They're not nearly as high powered as the binoculars that I have for myself, but they do work. And it's a great little reminder that, the vision of generations past, they couldn't see as far as I can see because the world has changed so much in these past couple generations. And so we can't look with those eyes. We can be reminded, but we must look forward. So there's this visioning tool, when you're in my business, people talk about these things a lot. We talk about visioning as much as we talk about being in the now. I'm like, but we got to be informed by the past. Let's not forget that. Not attached to, informed by, knowing that we are unlimited in the next step. So there's this visioning tool where you imagine the end product, whatever that, what that looks like. You imagine what it'll feel like, the emotions, what it'll smell like, whatever, like the whole thing. Like when you're putting together a meal, you might imagine what it will taste like, right? But this is like bigger than that. And then for some people, what they do is they just say, okay, well, what's the steps to take me to there? Well, I'll do the next step and do the next step, and you work your way up. Now, I think it's a nice idea. But I've learned that my brain is just not wired for that particular tool. And if yours is, that's awesome. Do that. But that's why we need many tools in our toolbox, because not every tool is right for every job or every person. For me, my tool is to think global and act local. Understanding the real world ripples of my actions and having the presence in the moment to neither get stuck contemplating all the choices and freeze. Have you ever done that where you're just like, there's so many choices, you're just like, I can't, because you can see that every choice has some sort of, every choice has effects, right? Eventually you have to make a choice. Or sometimes you get so overwhelmed by all the choices, you just do whatever. So instead, we want to be grounded in the now and with enough information and vision to be able to just step forward to what is ours to do. And having compassion if we find out later that I guess I probably would have done a better job if I'd done the other thing. That can inform our future. So the long view is knowing that the promised land is somewhere over the horizon. And moving in that direction with faith and wisdom. The long view is knowing in our core that all of our well wishes and dreams for the world, they happen in community with our fellow earthlings. Moses probably could have made it to the promised land if he'd been all by himself. But that wasn't the idea. The idea was to come together as a people, right? Mass enlightenment happens together. Each of us moving forward together. And so these things happen together. We find our way together. And we enjoy the present moment, allowing joy to be part of every step. We don't want to be workaholics for the future, because that would be another way we could overextend ourselves. We want to allow space for breath and for awe and every moment being present. We do not delay our joy for our arrival at some far off place. We celebrate together every moment. Life is more fun if we celebrate and find joy in the present moment, right? Yes. If we celebrate the things, it's like, yeah, there's still a lot of things to be done, but we can celebrate every step along the way. And so then we're in the present. And I believe that helps us stay excited and engaged about moving forward instead of feeling like we're never going to make it. We don't want to feel like that. We want to feel like each step we celebrate together because we are in this together. And what I also love about the idea of remembering that we are going the distance together is that sometimes we need a pause. When you are in a choir and you're singing one of those really long notes It's not that everybody in the choir is singing the whole long note. You stagger your breathing. So someone, 5 people are holding the note, one person breathes, and then the next person breathes, and the next person breathes. And to the person who's listening, it sounds the same. It sounds like, and we all get there together. And so we can remember, even as we're taking our steps, even if we need to take a moment, that we're not hurting the group. As long as we keep in the joy, keep moving that ourselves forward and being curious and knowing that the path is not a straight line, and knowing that the path is not all ours to walk. Each generation has their part to play in mass enlightenment, creating a world that works for all. And we do it together. And that's how we go the distance.